What's up, guys? So you know me by the name IDDQD, but my real name, obviously, Andre Dahlstrom. I play professionally for the San Francisco Shock in the Overwatch League, and I am 26 years old.
It's Hammond.
Little skulls coming up, and it is going to be a double kill dead eye for IDDQD.
It's common knowledge at this point, but a lot of people don't seem to know. They're just like half and half. But I used to work as a security guard during night shift at a very nice hotel in Sweden. All those night shifts essentially turned into VOD reviews and my passion for the game. So that's kind of like how I got started. The hotel was so fancy and so nice that there were never heavy troublemakers. There were, everyone was calm, collective. There was just these people with fat stacks running around, and they're no troublemakers. So essentially during nighttime, nothing was going on unless it was, prime time for festivities or, anything that they were doing at the time. So essentially I would VOD reviews. I do VOD review as much as I possibly could from different teams, from myself, that I brought on like USB sticks to just make sure that I could keep track of everything. So whenever I had time to play next time, I'd be more prepared than the last. So that's how it kind of turned into. Yes. So there, I decided to continue working until I had 2 months of salary from my then organization who was paying me, and I made sure that I could live off it. And it worked. Everything was good. So I kind of let go when I knew it was going to work out. So that's when I kind of let go and I said, hey, whatever, I'm just going to quit. So I gave them my heads up, and they were like, okay. And I told them what I was going to do, and they kind of just like wished me good luck. So that was nice. And I kind of just went with it. You only get one opportunity, so you might as well take it. There weren't really that many teams competing. I think in the very, very, very beginning, I don't even remember the teams of them anymore, but it was just like rookie teams starting out. But the thing was, they were ahead of time because they were playing as a group. I think one of the really notorious teams that people might not remember is a team called Melty. It was a French team that consisted actually of some of the names you've seen today. One player that a lot of people know is called Nico GDH, or Nico's Gosselin, whatever his nickname is, and he's a French player. Notably played for Rogue for a while before they disbanded. So I was looking at VOD reviews from them as much as possible to kind of catch up and have more game knowledge than the other person, just to be something on the market, basically. One of the few things that stood out with me back in the day was a lot of people considered my aim to be the striking point of my best attributes. I think at the time, a lot of the game knowledge and the strategy that I was bringing to any team, or that I carried with me, was because I was consistently looking at other people's teams and how they played, what the difference is, what teams are good at what, and whatever, and trying to assess all these attributes to myself. Obviously, it's impossible to gather every single attribute there is, but you can at least try. So absolutely, I think it was a contributing factor for me being quite a popular pick back in the day for any team, I think. I played in my own team that I formed back in the days. It was called Impulse 11, and we really made a name of ourselves early on because our team was kind of weird. We had some new names, we had some old names. We just had a mixed match of players. Actually, in Impulse 11, we had Nevix, who was playing with us, who's now playing for San Francisco Shock. We also had Sebosai, who is today playing for Mayhem. For the Mayhem, let me see, am I forgetting anyone? We had Vonethel, who used to play for Fnatic with me back in the day as well, and we were Impulse 11 essentially. And you could say that I got an offer from Rogue at the time that I couldn't refuse, so I kind of took it, and I played with Tvick and the Frenchies, Unco, AKM wins. I played with Rainforest as well on that roster. And I think one of the few things that made me on the market is because Impulse 11, we entered a tournament about 4 days after our team was formed, and we essentially destroyed the majority of the teams, the really good ones as well. I think we knocked out the favorites as well, which was old IDDQD. Well, I don't think we knocked them out, but we took the map, we took the round against them, and people started noticing who we are. And IDDQD back then was, they were the best of the best. I don't think there was anything close to touching them at all. They were favorites at any corner. And then the second best team at the time was called Reunited. And we kind of just stomp our way through the tournament, and I think that's how we gained traction, and people started noticing each and every one of us. And I decided to go to Rogue because that was the first time I was offered to be paid to play a video game. So I decided to take it. Absolutely. I scouted the players for the team. I thought they all had something unique, and I think if you have, I'm a believer that if you bring different personalities with different ideas and different factors playing into each and every one of them to why they're good at the game, I feel like if you have the really good personality silver lining through the team where everyone kind of gets together and don't really mind each other, all of a sudden you can learn even more from one another. And if you have more factors playing into it, I think you're kind of covering all the loose bases that you normally wouldn't in a team. So I figured, hey, let's just find people from all different kinds and just put them together and see what we can do. And I feel like Impulse 11 was a staple to that. I knew that I wanted to make my own team to prove myself, because there were already established teams in the scene at the time, and none that wanted to take a risk to bring me in over whatever DPS they had. So I figured, hey, I think I got to prove myself, or even better, make a team that will destroy their team, so I can, put a nail down and say, hey, you know what, we beat you, so maybe you should have picked me up. But no, I scouted Sublesite and Nevix from another team. I kind of low-key poached them because I knew that they were really, really good and they were Swedish. We actually went with a Swedish lineup because we thought that would just be better in terms of communication, in terms of call-outs, of audio views, whatever. It just felt easier if you had a Swedish squad. And I think after I poached Nevix and Sublesite, they obviously helped me with some of the picks. We were exploring other options, obviously. And I think we found our fit. So I think I brought Nevix and Sublesite over, and I feel like they really helped me in my quest to make the best Swedish team as we possibly could. So in the end, I think everyone was just, evolving and trying to have a finger in to make the team even better. But for what it's worth, I think that the true beginning and the foundation, I would like to say, was my idea. Oh, I had already. So after 2 months of Rogue, I decided to quit my job regardless, because I thought this was actually something I could live off. When after Rogue, we went to Germany in Krefeld, and we won the first offline major tournament for Overwatch, Take TV together. Unfortunately, some personality clashes with me and the rest of the teammates ended up being that I was removed from the team, or let's say replaced. And at the time, I knew I had potential, so I didn't really take that too much I didn't get discouraged. I knew that, hey, I just won the first offline tournament. I think a lot of the feedback that I was getting from them was like inexperience, scared to play on stage, and which was completely true. There's no denying it. I could have done a much better job. I think I played fairly well until the finals. That's where it got really iffy, and I got really scared, jitters in general. And I think that's completely fine. It was my first tournament ever, and it was in front of an audience, and there was a lot of people watching at the time. Tournaments were used to having like 900 to 1,200 people watching. Take TV ended up having close to, was it like 10K people? That was really frightening to know in the back of your head. So a lot of feedback that was given from the Rogue players was essentially inexperience, jitters, game knowledge, and I was just like, okay, fair enough, I'll work on these, and they sort of replaced me, and that's fine, fair enough. So I decided to take it upon myself to again, I contacted one of the managers for Fnatic at the time, and kind of got to get with him, and I was like, hey man, if you give me the tools of the trade to be able to bring people in and to be able to use you guys' organization as a kind of like, what do you call it? Not a bait, but kind of like a carrot to follow. If I can give you, if you can give me the tools of the trade to use your brand and give you guys a good team, I will get you the best North American team that you possibly can have, and we'll win tournaments for you. And he sort of trusted me and gave me the tools I needed. And again, I was back on building sort of a new Impulse 11 in a way, but with better tools and bigger tools. Fnatic is a huge brand. Like, they're one of the legacy organizations, been around for a long time, right? And I was able to fish up the talent that I really wanted on my team. And I mean, it turns out we were a pretty goddamn good squad. I think literally every tournament we ever played in was basically top 3. We won a couple majors and premiers, top 3. And Fnatic was being very, very happy with the results. So that's kind of the legacy that went on in the background before establishing itself to Overwatch League. So Fnatic had a Battlefield roster that went to Overwatch, but they separated. They went different ways. I guess that was a mutual decision from the organization and from the team to go separate ways. And I knew they had attempted to make a team for the Overwatch, and I noticed that probably didn't go that well, and I felt like I could do a better job with that brand. So I kind of and sort of pitched the idea to the manager at the time. I was like, hey man, give me the tools and I'll give you a really good team. And there was a lot of talking back and forth, obviously. They were interested in picking up a more established team. They weren't really ready to, pick up a brand new amount of players that hadn't been tried. But I sworn on my life, basically, that I would give him a good team. And he sort of trusted it and went with it. And I think it turned out really well. I think we did exceptionally well. Everything, yeah. I think Fnatic's legacy helped every single player. I think Fnatic did such a good. We came in with a big force. We were forced to be reckoned with. We're one of the top teams for the long time before we went separate ways as well. And I think a lot of us that are in the Overwatch League today have Fnatic to thank for that. Whether we decided to go separate ways or decided to not continue competing anymore, because there's some that decided to take more of a coach role, and there are some that decided to pursue other opportunities. But for the people that are now in the Overwatch League, I think every single of us from Fnatic could somehow thank that period of time for people seeing what we're actually worth. So it started back in Quake. Essentially, I played Quake before Overwatch, and I played a lot of arena tournaments, a lot of FPS arena shooters, right? And I noticed that no competition was too hard when I played Quake. I kept going up against these titans that are, notorious for being extremely good players and whatnot. And I kind of sat back and I thought to myself, hey, they weren't that good. And I was pretty young at the time. The only issue was I was kind of trying to balance, playing competitively in Quake. Well, I wouldn't ever say pro because I never got paid to play Quake ever. Let's just put that out there. And I was never able to travel internationally to actually start competing either because of my age. I was young. So I was in this constant limbo, a weird one of that, because, I had to balance studying, arguing with my mother that gaming is worth it, and then training at the same time. And that was fairly difficult. Basically faking going to school and keeping her happy while I was practicing all day. And then eventually I made her a promise that I was going to make it. And obviously she didn't believe it. But, when she started seeing me on TV, started seeing me online, started seeing, people recognize me when walking around in Sweden, I think that all of it kind of came together in a way where she's like, okay, now I'm just proud. So I think she gave up eventually. And it's kind of funny because now she's my biggest fan. So I think all worked out pretty well. But like I was saying, I was never able to compete properly in Quake. I was never really given a chance from my mother. So it kind of was stuck in a limbo. And I knew back then that I had the potential to compete in games if I really wanted to. And I took a shot at Overwatch, and here I am. It's basically, knowing where they are, communities, getting acquainted with the scene and knowing who's actually good, knowing the names that won't give you trouble, and just constantly versing them, regardless of outcome. I would consistently get shit on all the time, but I think one of the few things that I had is that I never gave up, and I never really got frustrated because I knew with every loss there was something to learn. And I think back then I was so young and so happy, so everything's funny. Even getting shit on was fun, right? Some people think that's horrible and they just alt F4 and they leave the game. For me, it was completely the opposite. I felt like there was a need to evolve and get better if I kept losing. And I just noticed that with patterns, like every month I would get consistently better and better and better. And then on top of that, I noticed that, hey, why do I just continuously focusing on myself? Let's look at their VODs and their replays and see what they do that I don't, and see if we can learn something from that. And I think that was the breakthrough, because already at like age 15, I was feeling like the competition was so low. I mean, Quake is kind of a niche game as well. It's kind of difficult. I usually say it's very easy to learn, but it's extremely difficult to master, right? And I think that's kind of a niche about most of things. But I feel like I had it all. I played, I tried over the tournament as well, and I felt like the competition was sort of in my levels there as well. And I felt like every game I was playing, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, all this game, I was like top fragging, or I was doing well, I was doing this, I was doing that, and no enemy was too good, right? No opponent was too good. And I felt like maybe I should take a shot at this sometime during the Quake era. And I decided to do it in Overwatch, and it sort of worked, right? I mean, I'm here today, so I felt like my intuition really took me here. Like, he's continuously working and never giving up. I think Overwatch was pretty badass because I felt like it was this hybrid mix of all these FPS shooters that I've ever wanted. I feel like they had elements of Unreal Tournament in it. I felt like they had elements of Quake in it. I felt like they had elements of TF2 in it. You know, it just keeps going and going and going, right? I felt that if you have a game where all these games are combined, what's not to like, right? Well, why not give it a shot? So I decided, hey, fuck it. I'm just going to go with it. And luckily enough for me, I had a very nice friend of mine who was currently in a relationship with one of the European Blizzard managers or something. I don't really recall what she did, but she had the opportunity to dish out a friends and family Overwatch key before it was released to the masses, right? And as soon as I picked up that game and I played it, my friend said, nah, after an hour of playing, said, nah, this was not for me. I played for 17 hours straight and I couldn't stop. It was the most fun I've had in ages, right? Like back from when I felt like Quake was new. It gave me this kind of rush and feeling that this is something I'm really enjoying. So it's just spiraled out of control at that point. Like I was consistently hitting 10 hours almost as much as I possibly could almost every day. And I just felt like this is the game. This is the time, because otherwise I'm just going to be too old. So I decided to go with it. 100%. I think if anything, me starting out early kind of snowballed a image of how good I actually am. I feel like if you play a game 1,000 hours before people who start the game, you will know things and you will be better than them regardless of how good aim they have or anything or whatever hero they excel at. You will be a better player. And you could see that early on in the Overwatch too, in the competition. Some people that played from the early stages, like in the beta, for example, who was somewhat limited, right? When new teams came out, when the game came out, they were consistently getting shit on for months, right? Until they eventually catched up. And that's where the competition sort of balanced itself out. But there were many, many months where the Titans or the veterans that have been playing from day one from the Friends and Family beta or close beta, they were marginally better in terms of strategy, in terms of knowledge, in terms of mechanics. Like that's just the way it worked, because they played the game, 500 to almost 1,000 hours before the people just picked it up. So obviously they are going to be better. It's just, it's just human traits. Unbelievable. I think as a Blizzard fanboy, before Overwatch came out, I played all their games. Just for the record, I played World of Warcraft for 10 plus years, played it since vanilla, and I've been a huge fan of the company for a long time. So it was just a huge plus in the corner that it was Blizzard that developed Overwatch. I think to be able to play at BlizzCon, at the big stage, for your home country, national pride, it's just a dream come true, I think. I think it was for everyone, honestly. I think for every person who played the first year, I think we all said the same thing. It's just national pride, and everyone's just proud of each other of being there. Tough competition, but disregarding that fact, it was just an amazing experience, really. I think the most surprising thing was never getting used to how loud the crowd was when you were making a play. I think in the beginning, I was just like, I was shaking. There was so many people around you, and it's just fully seated. Everyone's cheering, everyone's screaming your name when you're walking out. It's just two countries versus one another. And I remember this distinctively as well. I remember a round I was playing against Finland, and we're playing Hanamura, and I ended up getting Tracer 5K, I think it was. And I remember this distinctively. On the second kill, the crowd was so loud that I could feel the vibrations in the entire monitor and my mouse and my keyboard. And it sort of just made me play better. That's when I knew that all my jitters and everything that came with it was gone. That from that point onward, I felt like I can play in front of any audience. And that was a powerful moment for me. And I think everyone learned something from the World Cup as a player. Absolutely. No, I think for some reason I can lock my brain onto something. Like, what stage is going to be bigger than the World Cup stage? None. There is no big stage as that. So whatever you're playing underneath that is going to be smaller. And all of a sudden, the jitters just go down, and no more nervousness. I think we're stepping up to the stage for the first time. I think it goes through everyone that you feel a little bit of nervousness because you care, right? That's just a human trait. You can't do anything about it. But as soon as you kind of get accustomed to sitting on that stage for a couple minutes, usually 5 to 10 minutes, you're okay, and everything just releases and you focus on what you want to do. So I feel like I kind of trick my brain into saying, hey, you know what? It's not the World Cup stage at least, and I kind of get calm. So important. I think it's an ego boost, if anything. I think I always knew I had it in me. Unfortunately, the Overwatch League this season hasn't been the most fruitful for me. It's been kind of the up and downs, but I always knew that it had nothing to do with skill. I always knew it had nothing to do with knowledge, and I'm quite honored to be able to at least be a tryout for the Swedish World Cup team. And I felt like I've been playing really well lately, and I just wanted to give it another shot, and it seems like they like that shot. So I was just keep playing, keep practicing. I think I play and practice Overwatch more than I ever have. So I think a lot of comes from that as well, just keeping yourself up to par. I think for the first time in my life, I forced myself to like my situation. It wasn't, it's strictly done professionally because you're a professional player, so you have to be professional about things. You can't just throw a hissy fit either because it doesn't work or because you don't feel like it should be a certain way. Sometimes you're just gonna have to accept it for what it is. Maybe it was my time to shine. But for the most part, I think it didn't really affect my relationship with the players because we all know it's just strictly professional and it's business. I think one of the few things to why I'm picking up training and practicing so much right now that I haven't done before is, one, I actually never once scrimmed with the San Francisco Shock team under Brad's rule, not once. So a lot of the things, when you saw the AMA, saw the interview and all that stuff, people came up to me and they're like, hey man, what's going on here? He's claiming that you practiced with the team. And I was like, nope, never did. And people are like, wait, you never practiced with the team? I was like, well, I did before we even were San Francisco Shock. So I kind of had to stop him there. He's like, hey dude, I'm not going to let this pass because it's not true. I was actually never, the real truth is I was never given an opportunity to show off, whether that was bias, favoritism, whatever. That I don't care. I do not care the reason for why I was never played, but I would have loved to know what the reason was, right? So fast forwarding in the season, Krusty comes in. Krusty comes in from Boston, and like that, he's play Andre. He's play your heart out. And I was like, I haven't played in 7 months, dude. He's like, he's play. He came to me after we scrimmed. I scrimmed for the first time with the team with him under my rules. It's been like 5 months, right? 4 or 5 months. And I'm rusty because I played ranked all day. It's like, it's not scrimming, it's ranked. So you get this weird mindset that you have to solo carry all the time because that's how ranked works, right? So when you put it into a team situation, I obviously knew I was going to get shit on. But no, to my avail, I was doing pretty well. I was actually doing good, despite not being able to play for that long in a professional setting. And he came to me afterwards, and he's just like, I was like, what? He's like, and you haven't played why? This is like, he's like, you don't know? And I was like, nope, don't know. And he's like, well, you're going to be playing now. So he thought my mechanics were incredible. He thought those were really undermined and undervalued. He thought my aim was obviously my best attribute to what I could provide. He thought my aim was, like, as he will say, is, effing insane. It's kind of funny how he says that, but he doesn't believe it. He thinks it's incredible. And he started on a quest, and he told me, hey man, I came in, the team was already kind of not I wouldn't say use the word shambles, but we're kind of down in the Overwatch League, right? We weren't doing too hot. And he comes in and he obviously has to fix the A team, right? That's what he's supposed to do. So he has a big task in front of him, but I'm never ever going to thank him enough for the fact that he was able to juggle the A team with me at the same time, because he really believed in me. He was just like, how do I explain this? Like, just to put in perspective, after I had played the Shanghai Dragons match, right, and I popped off on Dorado, whatever people like to call it, I had an interview afterwards, just to give you an idea of how Krusty is as a person, right? I went up and had my interview. Halfway in that interview, he comes up. He steps into the interview room. And I was just like, well, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I just wanted to make sure that if anyone ever asks you if you're ever a sub, I'm just here to tell them, no, you are active player, and that's that. And that's all he wanted to say. And I thought that was extremely kind. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, he believes in me. I think one of the few issues that I had was confidence, I think, and obviously not enough playtime. He came in worked with the A team, decided to work with me at the same time, and then the scary part was all these professional teams in Overwatch League have been playing for consecutively six months. You know, they've been practicing hardcore with their teams. I haven't played during the entire season. Haven't even practiced during the entire season. Yet I'm expected to catch up to 6 months of practice just in a couple of weeks. And I was honest with him. I was like, hey man, I can't lie. I feel I'm not confident. I don't feel good about this. And he's just like, well, you do well in scrims. You play, your Widow is incredible, and we want to use it. And this was actually pretty early on as well. And I was just like, no confidence. I'm sorry. I just don't have confidence going up against these really good Widowmakers in the league. I don't. And he kind of took it upon himself to boost my morale and to boost my confidence as much as he could. Unfortunately, I think it's all hanging on my shoulders as well to be able to take that feedback as well and transform it into something positive. And I feel like I didn't do that well enough, because I could have had opportunities to play way more than I did with him under the role of the team. But it was me who led to the fact that I wasn't able to play more maps or whatever, because my confidence was shattered. I come from a period of time where I haven't played for 6 months and I don't know why. And all of a sudden a coach comes in and tells me I'm great. And I'm just like, wait, what happened? I'm kind of confused. But regardless, I was super happy with him. And we've been working really hard to make sure it happened. And he even gave me opportunities like, what maps do you want to play? Do you want to play against this team? What about this team? And I was just like, not confident enough. Why should I go up on stage and take someone's spot if I don't feel confident? That's a douche move. And I'm not about that. You're supposed to be a team player. So I only stepped up on stage when I felt confident. And that ended up being one map against Shanghai Dragons. But it could have been more if I wanted to. And if I really wanted to work hard and practice even harder, I probably could have made it. But at the time, wasn't confident enough. I mean, essentially, if you don't play in a professional setting, your skills start to deteriorate. That's just the nature of the game, right? And every month goes by, and I'm just like, I'm getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and my talent is kind of fading away slowly. I know I can train it back up, but it's going to take a while. It's not a thing you do overnight, right? You can't just be like, hey, Andre, shit's going really bad right now. We need to put you up on stage after 4 months and expect you to do good. It's not how it works, right? You have to consistently practice and get help to get to that point. You can do it on your own. They'll definitely take longer than a couple of days. It'll probably take months or even a month. Who knows? But Krusty was literally the reason to why I was able to even play a map. His constant help and boost my confidence as much as he possibly could for days on end. And of course, the other people in the coaching staff are very excellent, and I really appreciate their help as well. But it was sort of my call to not play more. Actually, has not even been discussed yet. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know. I don't think any player on the team knows what's happening, and I think that's natural. I think that's completely normal. I think that goes for a lot of teams in the league right now. I think everyone is sort of in a limbo. I do know that we go back and we do, press, media, and all that stuff, and I know there are practice planned for that duration as well. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he does a evaluation of the team when the time comes, and he just decides to, handpick some people or get rid of everyone. Who knows? Nobody knows. So I can't really say anything for certain. So the majority of Team Sweden consists of Overwatch League players. That has to be said, and we're all kind of scattered across in different teams. We have Snilla from Philly Fusion. We have the majority from Mayhem. We have me and Nevix from Shock, right? And I think everyone's kind of taking, because there's like a vacation limbo right now where people are kind of doing whatever they want to do. And I think for the most part, what we're doing right now is kind of like assessing training. We did scrim intensively for a month straight, and I think that's where our coach Mineral made the choices to bring these people on, people who were good, synergized, played well, strategy, communication. He picked the roster from that intensive training, and I was on it. I don't know what's happening next, but yeah, I'm on the 12-man roster, and I honestly don't know what to expect this yet. We haven't really started practicing with Team Sweden just yet, more so, but I think more of that will come in the future. After Fnatic in a limbo, I decided, we didn't really know about the team's future. I parted ways with Fnatic at a time, but I was still under the org, and I decided, hey, I've never tried streaming. I've had this legacy in Overwatch for a long time. Everybody knows my name, but how would I do on a site like Twitch? Would that work? Would people want to see that? Obviously inspired by Siegel, who's been doing really well on Twitch. I was like, hey man, if he can do it, maybe I can. I don't know. Let's watch him. So I tuned into a couple of his streams, and I kind of noticed how he talked, educational, kind of took a few points from how he delivered his stream. And it's just like, after thinking about it for a week, I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to do my own. I'm just going to start the stream and be myself. I'm not gonna try and copy someone else's. And I think that started out really well. It's just boom, bam, like that. I think my first stream ever had 1,000 viewers. So I never really had this, starting from like a low amount. It's just people wanted to watch me because, the name was that big. And bam, it just consecutively got higher and higher and higher. And I think the highest I ever reached in my peak was like 14,000 viewers at one point. I think that was it very early in the beginning, where it was like me, Seagull, Shore for Streaming. I think those were the names that you saw the most. And I think the viewers were less spread out and more, compact on certain streamers. And I think communities really went into different people's channels. Seagull's viewers came to mine came to Shore for rinse, repeat, in the circle. So I think it was way easier back then as a streamer to be able to do it. I think the reason why I did it was because, hey man, if I practice 10 hours every day, maybe someone wants to watch it. Maybe someone wants to learn a few things, because I keep getting questions on Discord, Skype, whatever. Hey man, how do you do this? Hey man, how do you do this? Why are you so good at this here? What do you think about this? I was like, wait a minute. What if I just play and show them instead of consistently messaging everyone individually? I was just like, okay, I'll do it. So that's where Twitch came from. And it sort of just, bam, exploded super, super quickly. I think I hit like 500 subs super, super quickly. And I was just like, wow, that's a lot. And I was like, well, I probably hit 500. That's awesome. That's probably my peak. No, a month or two later, 1,000. I was like, what's going on right now? People are just continuously subbing. And then I was just like, okay, 1,000 is the highest I'll ever reach. That's it. That's the peak. No, I hit 1,500. I was just like, it just keeps going and going and going. I'm an Overwatch streamer. What's going on? And I hit 2,000. I was like, okay, I guess I'll keep going. So what I kept doing was, hey, wherever I went, I just made sure that I would always be well rested for practice, but also have enough energy by the end of the day to be able to stream, to be able to consistently do this. And I hit my all-time peak, which was 2,500, and that number has obviously gone up and down, as we go along. But I think when I was streaming most actively, hitting 2,500 is no easy feat, and I was really proud of myself. And I kept balancing that, but prioritizing, obviously, the pro gaming aspect of just being consistent. Yes, so the around time, if I do it on my peak times where I usually stream, I have no issues getting 2,500 to 3,000 people watching consecutively. But considering I'm in a different country right now and there's different time zones, usually the time I stream at has been completely shifted and overturned by the Swedish schedule. So right now, it's not the same schedule as I used to. I think when I come back and I stream consecutively on like a PST time where people actually know when I start and somewhat knows where I end, people start coming in more, right? When it's more like wild, you pick a time, you just go for it, that people have a hard time following. So that number is always a little bit lower depending on the day you're doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's I haven't really touched YouTube for a while. It's mostly Twitch and Twitter for the most part. So yeah. What I streamed the most was when, as I mentioned, that Fnatic and I parted ways. That's what I decided to stream the most, because I had nothing to do. And I wanted to keep myself fresh because I was practicing consistently every day for 10 hours plus. I was like, hey, let's just stream it. Let's see if it works. And that's when I kind of built my own community. And I just kept building it over and over again. But wherever I went, I made it sure to anyone who was subbing, anyone who was there watching. I was like, hey, guys, this is my second time. Like, this is the second part of the day. I will always focus on scrimming, practice, and making sure that I give my team everything that they want, because that's how I would want them to be treated, so I'm going to treat them the same. So I always made sure that people knew what they were subbing to, that it could be inconsistent, but it could also be very consistent depending on how I feel. And I think just being that transparent with the community really helped building it as well. So people knew that, hey, he might not show up tomorrow, he might not show up for a week, so people don't get pissed off or whatever. So they always knew that, hey, he might not show up today or whatever. So that really helped out. When the game was blooming, everyone was just kind of like, Overwatch, we're going to watch it, right? But the game is not quite old. I mean, it's young for a game, but it's no longer a baby, right? And I think a lot of the people that had an interest in a peak interest in the beginning has maybe moved on. We can tell that, a lot of numbers on normal streamers have gone down quite a bit. So I think just in general, people have, some of the community has moved on to watch other games or watch other people or whatever. Right. So I think also just because the game has kind of aged a little bit, we've also lost, a couple of people moved on. So that happens too, very regularly. I think it's consistently playing and never getting discouraged regardless of outcome in different teams and whatnot. I just keep working it. I think people just sort of see the name all the time. I mean, the more you see a name, the more familiar you get with it, right? One of the few reasons to why everyone seemed to know who Seagull is because, hey, he had he started out streaming, was one of the first to do it, and it picked off like in such a high-paced speed that he's become, what he is today. He's such a big name because his name is also very, very common. I can bet my ass on, for example, people would know, Seagull, IDDQD, Shore4 more so than other players in general, just because we do have big streams that follow with our names, right? And even if you look like, I'm talking about Overwatch League Pro specifically, it's an example. And I think one of the few reasons to why is because of the stream. The stream really helps. I mean, you say it yourself, like what I had, 280,000 followers, 270 followers on Twitch. That's a lot of people. That's people who know who I am. They follow for a reason, right? But if you look at someone who might have, I don't know, a stream with 20,000 viewers. I mean, I have, 20 times that. So my name is 20 times more, supposed to be known than the person. It's just an example, right? It might be skewed. You might not be pixel perfect. I get that. But I mean, it just goes to show that if you have a large following, a large fan base, that is consistent from like YouTube, Twitch, or whatnot, and if you weren't to have it, I definitely see your name being known more because of it than not having it. Like, it's like saying, would Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter not have helped me at all? Of course it has. Like, of course it has. If I didn't have it, would people know my name as much? No. I tried to do that in the beginning. I tried to do it as much as I could in the beginning because I think it's important that people know there are different platforms, but I sort of put my shift away onto Twitch, then Twitter, and then lastly, YouTube. I never really care about Instagram. I don't care about, any other. I think my main platform is Twitter and Twitch, and that's how I'm going to keep it. I don't see no interest in like Facebook, Instagram. I think that's not really the tools of trade that I need. No, I definitely have. People are different. Some people are way more receptive to hearing feedback. Some people are not. So I think some people have it easier being told in a YouTube format how to, get better at something. Some people are better upfront. Some people are better by just having a message. Some people don't want feedback at all. So, I'm trying to hit all these kind of different personalities and how people review and want feedback. Sometimes I do it live on stream. Sometimes you do it on a YouTube video. It's just, trying to appeal the masses as much as possible. Screw it. I'm going to be me. That is the best way to do it. There's no shortcuts. I think it's just so much easier for yourself, Even if you're fucking baby raging a couple days at a time, fuck it. It's just you. This is who you are. If someone comes in and tells you, hey, you're toxic, get the fuck out of here. It's just like, hey, man, have you never been mad in your life? It's quite different. I mean, I'm not saying, hey, go out and be toxic on your stream. I'm saying be yourself, regardless of how many people are watching, how many people are judging you. Do remind, however, that you're a professional player and you do have the spotlight on you. So people might look up to you and take after you. So obviously don't do illegal stuff or don't, promote provocative stuff or say bad things whenever you're doing stuff, right? But be yourself. I mean, it's okay to rage every once in a while. It's okay to fucking slam your keyboard if you really want to release some steam and anger. But, you don't have to go beyond that and be an asshole to everyone that you see, right? But be yourself. I think your personality is you, and that's what's unique about you. And I think that's what people would like. Yes, absolutely. I think in the beginning of Overwatch, or after Fnatic this, whatever, I sort of built an ego. I had an ego, and it was really, really bad, and I didn't really notice it until it was called out by a teammate, by it, and thank God he did, because I sort of didn't really see that it was there, and I sort of like flushed it away and said, hey man, you're just talking shit, but sort of understood that maybe he had a point, and I sort of took a moment to look back on myself and was like, hey man, I'm a complete fucking asshole. Maybe I need to, change a few things about myself. So I did some soul searching, and I, kind of understood the feedback that I was given. There was complete truth all over it, and I was just like, maybe I need to change a little bit. And I think some of that was also reflected on stream as well. Like, streaming on Twitch, for example, I would consistently get angry, tilted, frustrated, and let sometimes chat get to me because people love to provoke things, right, and make it a little bit worse. I think the only thing I did was just like kind of relax for a little bit, understand that you don't have to stream every day. You can stream whenever you feel like it. Because if you don't feel like streaming, if things aren't going well, that's going to, people are going to understand that and see that, and, they're going to feel it. And that's never a good idea. And it took me some time to understand that, because I would consistently stream regardless of how I feel. And if you go in sort of tilted streaming and shit just goes bad and goes south for you, that's also going to double down how you feel. So if you're pissed, you're going to get double pissed. You see the pattern. So what I started to realize was, hey man, you know what? If I don't feel it, don't stream. If you're really fucking angry, shut down the stream before something happens. That's what I started doing instead. And I think some of the few things to learn was just like, hey man, it's okay to be pissed. You just don't have to tell everyone that you are, in a way. I honestly don't know where it comes from. It hasn't always been there. It definitely came with the growth of becoming a professional player. 100%. It wasn't there in the beginning. I don't know when it came from, but I think there's definitely a trait that's helped me. I feel like in interviews such as these, or his communication in general, being able to speak properly, and everything that comes with it, I think it just helps. I think it's good to have such a trait. I don't think there's anything negative with it at all. Actually, it's just been skyrocketing forward, and I think it's only a good asset to have. Whether I'm in the community in 3 years' time, 5, 10, whatever, I think it's just going to be a really good asset for me, regardless of where I go. And I'm just happy that it's there, and I'm not just some awkward kid sitting around shaking in interviews and stuff. That I'm actually being able to pull through and being able to talk like adults. But no, I honestly think it's a really good trait. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it's derived from. I honestly have no clue. It's just there. But I can tell you this much: before I became a professional in Overwatch, it wasn't there. So it's something that has been developed over time while being a professional player. 100%. At one point, when I had this giant ego that made me hard to work with or whatever. Obviously, that was never my intent. There's been moments where people felt like my ego was just too big, so they didn't want to work with me. And when that came out, I was sort of like, damn, that's not who I want to be. And that was not on purpose. It's not like I purposely went into a team and be like, hey, I'm the dude, I'm the king. You guys sit down. I'll take care of this team. That was never the intent. And upon learning that from really good teammates of mine who told me how they felt at the time, I learned a lot from that moment. Like I said, I was soul searching for a while, took a hiatus from competitive play, and I just kind of thought about how I feel, and I sort of changed upon myself that maybe it's for the better that I stop having this ego and have low expectations and just go in and perform well, and perhaps it'll skyrocket from there. And it did. It sort of did end me up on a better position than I was. And I think being your own self-critic is always good. Completely denying that there's a problem is never a good idea. I think for growth, and I think to, in quote, grow up is part of understanding that, everyone makes mistakes and everyone has faults. But I think the first step is to acknowledge that they're there and to actively work to become a better teammate and a person. And I think sort of after Fnatic, I had to go through that stage because if you think about it, I've never had people depend on me in my entire life. I've depended on others. I've never had people look up to me. I've never had thousands of fans looking up to me either. I've never been in the spotlight. I was a security guard at a fancy hotel for the most of my time, right? I have a couple of friends in my circle at home. I've never had all these people look up to me. I've never had teammates hoping that, I fucking frag the fuck out and we win the game. I've never had that happen to me. So I think it's natural that something unexpected happens when you being put in a situation you're not used to, right? And I think it took me some time to understand that, hey, I'm becoming this person, but I don't have to. I think it's very important to know that I can be myself, regardless of who's looking at me or regardless of who's depending on me. I think one of the few things to me creating an ego was being scared of failure. I think it's more like building a barrier that you're indestructible and nothing can happen to you because you're so good or whatever. Today's IDDQD show, whatever. I legitimately felt like if I didn't carry in a game, for example, we used to lose. And that was not the truth. It was not the truth at all. But I think part of that buildup of that ego was a way to deflect negativity and people who didn't believe in you and just ride off the fame. But I don't think that's the way to do it. And I think if I ever had any regrets, it was learning to grow up a little bit faster than I did. I would have wanted this shift in personality to happen before my big teams than after. But I learned something, so I'm always going to be grateful for that. It's some people go their whole life without shifting. Some people go their whole lives without admitting to faults. Some people don't even understand that there's something there. Fortunately for me, I didn't know it was there, but someone told me that I don't have to play a charade. I can just be myself. And it took time and understanding to kind of let go and say, hey, maybe I should just be myself. I don't have to be someone else. After a little bit of soul searching, I found out that, hey, maybe that's the way to go. So I decided to give it a try. So it worked out. Never, ever give up. Do not get discouraged. There are going to be... So I live by the motto that sort of my mom told me is that, life has obstacles. Life has millions of obstacles, right? It's what matters is that you acknowledge that they're there and finding a way around them, not on top of them, just around it. And just consistently, knowing that, wherever if if it doesn't hurt, if it doesn't suck, it's not going to be a big reward at the end. The harder it takes to get there, the more rewarding it will be to finally get to that point, right? So I guess in short is never get discouraged. Do know that there will be a consistent amount of punches that you're going to have to take. There's going to be an influx amount of people that you're going to have to deal with that might not be the person that you want to deal with. But in a business like this, you're just going to have to accept it for what it is and, take it as growth. And I can't stress enough, you just never get discouraged. Like, don't give a shit what people think about you. If you feel like you're doing okay, if you feel like you're doing all right, and by the end of the night, you're proud of yourself and what you're doing, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Don't give up. World Cup. I mean, grabbing a medal was pretty badass. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty cool. I honestly felt like we should have been second. Like we had a rough loss against Spain the first year, but I feel like should have been ours. And I feel like we could have been in the finals instead. That hiatus unfortunately put us down to the third spot, and we got the Swedish-Finland rivalry instead. That was a crowd winner in a way, so that was cool. It's kind of cool being 2 years at the Overwatch World Cup and both times coming home with a medal. One as a player, one as a coach, which was kind of cool. And today I'm competing again. So it's like player, coach, player. It's an interesting thing. Hey, let's just put coach in quotation. I don't think I have any qualifications to be a coach yet. I don't think I am as good as, actual, like, if you put me next to any Overwatch coach or any team coach, I am the bottom. I am at the bottom. But I do have a lot of game knowledge. And I do know a lot about, preparations and you just, mindset and whatever. And I think it's very important just to be, everyone's best friend at the time. Just going around, making sure everyone has everything that they want, making sure that you're looking over everyone's shoulder, making sure that people know what their mistakes are and whatever. Try and help them the best way they possibly can to be prepared to go up on the main stage. And I think that was my job at the time. Call it coaching quotation. Like, that's it. I didn't really have the tools of the trade to be the coach I wanted to be, but I did what I could. Let's put it that way. It's like I said, not realizing that I was building up a annoying ego for the beginning of my career that really went on for too long. I think that was my biggest mistake. Just realizing that I was there way too late. Oh God, I mean, I'm a Hitscan specialist. I love Hitscan. I love playing McCree. I love playing Soldier. I don't like playing Widow that much, but she's, in the meta, so I play her regardless. But the truth of the matter is that, we're getting another hero that makes Hitscan even more null and useless. So obviously I'm not going to like that information of that hero. I'm hoping that Soldier and McCree is getting more buffs so they actually get to see more play. But honestly, with the buffs that they got, it was nice. But then we got another hero who's even more, flexible, more fast, more utility than D.Va herself. So all of a sudden you're kind of like, not going to work out that well with the buffs than it is. So we'll see. I hope that Hammond is worse than he looks. Okay, so McCree can now, instead of 5-shotting people, or so it's an example, he can now he usually six-shot people in the head from a distance to kill them, right? Now he requires 5. Why would you ever play him over Widow, who can one-shot at any distance? Widow also has mobility, utility, a great ultimate, provides wall hack. Why would you ever play McCree over Widow? There's no difference, nothing at all. And Soldier, he remains kind of bad still. The damage buff will not do anything at all. I've talked about this for a long time. I feel like McCree and Soldier should get armor penetrating properties. That way you promote aggressive play that will have somewhat rewarding gameplay as well. McCree used to be this frontal, Reinhardt's best friend, essentially. Flash over the shield, provide damage. His Fandy Hammer used to do a tremendous amount of damage, right? Obviously, that needed a nerf. It was too strong. But, I mean, he's always in the back. And now the flashbang is used as a defensive tool. So, like, the meta obviously shifted from one way to another. But one way to promote sort of like his old niche, in my opinion, is to give armor penetrating abilities, such as, his damage does more damage to armor. And I feel like that should be Soldier and McCree's kind of niche. Will it be too overpowered? I mean, we have PTR for a reason. I don't see why we couldn't try it. But yeah, I think they're forever going to be behind with whatever we have, unfortunately. Oof, with Hammond being implanted, I think pros had a sort of an idea of where we're going, but with the Hammond release, I think everyone is just like, what happened? So I don't think anyone knows at this point. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think so, no. I've never been requested to try out new heroes or whatever. As far as I'm concerned, it's completely done internally with our dev team. And then we know when a hero is released when everyone else knows. if I had to pick, I mean, I think I love Short because him and I go way back. I love Seagull because he wants to pick me up for energy. I'm always going to have respect for that guy. Such a good player, probably the smartest player the Overwatch League has ever seen. People just don't give Seagull enough credit. He's incredibly smart. Whatever he might lack in any other category, he makes up in brain power. He's he's so smart. And I really discovered that when I played with him energy. Stormford is a good mate of mine because he's been a part of the Overwatch scene as long as I have, which is quite frankly pretty badass. So Seagull. I think I can name so many people that I'm good friends with. There's a lot of Koreans that are really fun to hang out with. Obviously, the Swedes are Swedes. We always are friends with one another. Yeah, I can't really pick people. You know, I think everyone's pretty much on good terms with everyone. Scrimming, doing well against other notable players on the same role, I think is the biggest indicator if you're doing well. Logitech G Pro, the small one without the numpad, because I love having it's a small compact keyboard, does what it's supposed to. You can have it on the side, give more space to your teammates, and it just does whatever it should do. And I've spilled so many different kind of liquids on it, still works, so it gets my safe approval.